All right, man. Here we go.
Let's do it, buddy. It is it's baseball season, it's football season, it's hockey season. Is there any sports out there? Nah, it's basketball, but nobody really cares. It's October 8th. The year is 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron Podcast, and this is episode 804.
804, yeah. It is. I'm back into baseball, man. No playoffs.
We watched him last night. But yeah, he's all on the. I mean, obviously we live here in KC, so you got the Chiefs playing last night. You got the Royals, and it is funny. Like you know, when you live in a sports town, which KC is a pretty big sports town.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're all in on everything, and it's funny how like the whole city like shuts down when there's anything going on, and I love it. I mean, like. I walked in the grocery store yesterday at like 2, everybody in either a Royal shirt or a Chiefs shirt. And everybody also seems happier. Like everybody's like jazzed up and like, it's just, yeah. I mean, I think the weather's got a lot to do with it too. I mean, it was like 49 this morning, which is it's just an unbelievable time of year. But yeah, Hayden's like talking about, I don't know. It's just fun watching your kid, like when you love sports, watching your kid love sports and talking about players and asking how they're doing and hitting and playing. It's just, it's just fun. It's a fun time, right? To be here, and to be on the podcast. We appreciate everyone tuning in. It was a little bit of a slower weekend. You had Waco 70.3 going on, some other races, a lot of run races. It's about to be that run race time of year where everybody's got 5Ks, 10Ks, halves, and pretty much every running race imaginable going on until you kind of finish off the year here in October with a couple more big 70.3s, and obviously Kona at the end of the month, and California, Florida, Arizona. You got a lot. You got a lot still coming. But yeah, it was a little bit of a dead period, a little bit slower weekend, but still busy, right? And it's awesome to see. Again, the transitional phase, a lot of people go with this time of year. You got people ending seasons. You got people, in that like the peak of their season. You got people evaluating their seasons. You got people already, I'm sure the same, like getting emails already about 2025 and races and what I'm going to do. And it's always interesting, right, to work with so many athletes that are in so many different phases of their, of their quote unquote season. They're like, I'm chomping at the bit for 2025. They're trying to, in the last 6 weeks of training, you got some people are doing 70.3s in December, like Indian Wells. Like it's just, it's a fun time of year. It's always good to have a lot of different things going on. And we appreciate you tuning in today. If it's your first time listening, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Time is a reeval. Appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also like to talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level athletes in the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite little amateurs trying to get back to world championships and everyone in between from all over the globe, and use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks emails, text messages, and lights. You drive the discussion of the day. We also like to utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer multiple question. We'll let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource in a sport that is oftentimes way overcomplicated and way too confusing. It offers a safe, actionable space to get great information from seasoned veterans who've been around the block and are willing to answer your questions and help you avoid some of the pitfalls that we've all made along the way. We went in there last Thursday, did a bit of a Q&A. And to be fair, we do have quite a list left of those Q&As. We'll do that on Thursday, but and to finish those up to make sure we get to those, because there were quite a few questions we had left that were great. But we wanted to seize the moment and talk about something else today. That is it. We don't do sponsors and we don't do ads, but we do have an agenda, and that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yes. And, as we were talking beforehand, I think it is a really cool and interesting topic. It reminded me sort of, back to the days of my first Ironman and how it was just sort of this mystery for me, because I wasn't, before you could do it, it's a mystery, right? Like, and how I did Wisconsin, and all I kept doing was watching those swim videos of the mass start back in the day.
Right.
I would literally almost watch those on the daily, and it had this weird effect on me. It was sort of, intimidating, but so intriguing and all this kind of stuff. But, and then, that went on and on and on. Of course, eventually I was in the middle of that, and in someone else's video, and how much different it was being in it versus, watching it all the time. And it was it's just like, and I think we, obviously we, kind of touched on that together with this conversation, but it also reminds me of, because everything you're talking about, you're talking about going to the actual football game versus watching it on TV. And all I could also think about was how, when I was in the news business, that the photographers would go out and actually almost create the news in a weird way, because if there was, quote unquote, some kind of gathering or protest or something like that, whatever, they would position the camera to make it seem like it was really scary and there was tons of people going crazy. But then I would see the actual footage, and when they zoomed out, there was like nobody there, but they would just be on the tight shot, and they would create this illusion. And I was just talking about last night how, or watching the game last night, the baseball, and how they'll just kind of pick out certain people in the crowd or whatever that are going crazy and make it just seem like this bizarre freak show of a situation or something. But when you're there, and as you will describe in a second, it's a completely different feeling. And so, it really boils back to, what's in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the whole way home on Sunday morning coming back, and I'll talk about here in a minute, was just how many parallels there are between like this weekend and then like huge events that we sign up for, and the anxiety that we get beforehand, and then how we kind of battle internally with expectations and outcomes, and how much investing, and then how much we avoid certain things because of there's no guaranteed win. So like Hayden, he's 8 years old. We've gone to plenty of sports. We've gone to a Titans game. We've gone to a lot of NHL hockey games, which are just so much fun to be at. And so we've been to plenty of those, but we haven't been back to a football game, because the first one he was just bored out of his mind. I mean, again, it was Titans Jags like 3-4 years ago, and I mean, who wouldn't be bored with those two teams playing? But like the commercial breaks it was exhausting. He wanted to leave at halftime. And we're big Tennessee fans, and we're having a better than average year like we have had in the past. And so I saw they were playing Arkansas in Fayetteville. It's just 3 hours from here. And so I was looking at the schedule, trying to see if it could fit, because it's also hockey season. And I was like, oh, perfect. It's but I wanted it to be an afternoon game, which is perfect, right? I knew that would fit in to be honest, both of our sleep schedules. But I was more worried about him. And so I was a night game, but he didn't have hockey Saturday. He had hockey at Sunday at 10 back. So I'm like, man, that's going to be the preseason hockey. So it's like, whatever. But it's like it's the only time we're going to be able to see them this year, probably. And they're close. Let's just do it. So like at the last minute, I was like, you know what? Let's just go down there. Asked me if he wanted to go. And he was all in. And to be honest, like you and I talked about it on Thursday. You said stuff like, yeah, the stuff that makes you anxious is the stuff that he finds fascinating. And it was so true. Like, I haven't been down to a college football game in forever. I haven't been to a stadium that like I didn't know where to park in forever. So like, I'm like Googling like, where to park for Arkansas Razorback football games. How long is the walk? What time do you need to get there beforehand? I was like doing all this research, because I don't do well with unknowns. And so anyway, I get up Saturday morning, do my run, come back, and he like comes downstairs in his like Tennessee hat, an orange t-shirt, orange shorts, and like black and white socks. He's just decked out, ready to roll. So we get in there, we drive down there, we listen to like one of the VolQuest like podcasts on the way. We get into town around, I don't know, 11:30, 12. And I'll just be honest, and I think this is true for like races and stuff. Like when you get so comfortable watching things on TV, it's just so damn easy. I mean, it's just so easy. Like, because I honestly, even up to like the day before, I kept telling myself, like, is this really worth it? Your life is busy right now. He's got hockey on Sunday. And then again, what if we don't win? Will it be worth it? It's you're spending money. It's a lot of stress. And you're trying to like talk yourself out of it, but at the same time, like talk yourself into it. And I was like, you know what? You can't do that. You just got to go. You got to go. You got to see what it's like and see the experience. So we get up, drive down there, easy drive, get into Fayetteville around 11, check in the hotel. And he's pulling in. He's already like, oh, look. He's like, look at all the Tennessee tags, Dad. And there's a ton of Tennessee fans down there. Check in the hotel, go to Buffalo Wild Wings. I mean, we're doing the thing. We are all in. And so we go to Buffalo Wild Wings. We get some chips and salsa. We split 20 wings. And we're watching, I think we're watching at that point, like the A&M Missouri game. We get back to the hotel. Again, game didn't start till 6:30. I've got an 8-year-old with me. And my whole entire game plan here is how late can we get to the game so that he has a chance of making it past halftime? That was like what my game plan was. And then I got to thinking, I was like, well, about 1:30 hits. He's like, can we go? I'm like, dude, the game doesn't start for 5 hours. You're going to be destroyed. He was like, I want to get there. I want to tailgate. I want to throw football. I was like, you know what? Then I was like, you know what? What's the worst thing? I want to get there late. I want the full experience. If we leave at halftime, we leave at halftime. But at least he got the full experience of what it really is like to go to a game like this. So we ended up packing up at 2 and drove, found a place to park. That was the most stressful thing, was making sure I had a place to park. We're like half mile from campus. We park in this parking lot full of Arkansas Razorback fans. We get out, we throw football, we hang out for a bit, then we make our way down to the stadium. Anyway, long story short, go into the game, get in the game at like 5, do the whole like stadium food, sit in our seats, watch warm-ups. And then anyway, the game goes on. It's a night game. It's unbelievable. It's packed, sold out, 76,000 people. The crowd's going wild. We're obviously not playing. We ended up losing. But he had the best time, and so did I. I had an amazing time. I was saying before the podcast, so we got very lucky, and we sat in between on both sides. As we had some very like respectful Arkansas fans that like chatted with us the whole time, and we're talking about their season and our season and plays and bad calls and good calls. So that honestly made for like a really great experience for both of us, because that was honestly like one of the things I was worried about was drunk college frat kids and obnoxious mid 40s to late 50s drunk dudes being obnoxious and saying things and dealing with that whole thing. But it was funny. I was saying before we went live is, yeah, we lost, and obviously you want us to win, but I had the best time, and so did he. That even when we left, we were on the way home, and he was like, "You know what, Dad?" I was like, "What?" He was like, "We didn't really deserve to win." And I was like, "Well, it's true. We played like shit, but yeah, you're right." I didn't say that, but I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And I was like, "Did you still have a good time?" He's like, "Oh, I had the best time." And I went back and I was thinking through, if I had stayed at home, because I know this as a fan, like you stay at home and you listen to the announcers and how critical they are, and you're, playing the, Monday morning quarterback, and you're just, all you have to gain from the game is knowing your team won and lost. So everything that happens within that game is about how you might feel afterwards, because all you're doing is hanging on to the outcome. That's it. You don't have anything else. You're doing stuff the whole day. You got your whole life, and then when the time comes on, you flip it on or you DVR it. You don't have anything invested. You have no real investment in the actual game itself. You're just watching it. If you want to pause, you can pause. If you want to rewind, you can rewind. If you want to zone out and scroll through your phone and then hear the crowd roar and come up and remind you, you can do that. But being there, it was. I don't think I've ever been so unfazed by a loss I don't even know that I can remember, especially in a game that was huge for us with everybody else that was losing. And it was just, I kept thinking, like, as we got home, like we crawled in bed, and we're both wired. It's 11:30, and he's like, I don't want to go right to bed. I'm still like excited. So we watched some of the replay of Vandy upsetting Alabama and watched it. And then, we both fell asleep at like midnight. And then the next morning was brutal. We got up at 6 because we had to be packed and drive straight to hockey. But the lights were out, and I was like trying to go to sleep, and I was just hot, and you're just wired. I mean, it's hard to like switch it off. And lights are off, and we're just laying there, and he's like, "Dad," and I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go." And he was like, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Thank you for today. I love you." And I was like, "Ugh," hit me right in the feels. And so we're driving home the next morning. I'm exhausted, and all I could think about was, one, how much I wasn't like invested or affected by the loss, and instead how much I had gained from the experience. And then I was also asking myself this question, like, well, would you, knowing what you know now, not having had the experience but knew you were going to lose, would you have gone? And not having had that experience, I probably tell you shamefully, I probably would have said no. Like, no, why do I want to travel 3 hours, spend money, be exhausted to see us lose, right? But having gone and experienced it, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't have traded a win at home in front of the TV for going there and experiencing that, having that experience with him and doing what we did and having a great time myself in us losing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I was driving home, and he was trying to sleep some, and I just couldn't help but think of how many similarities that are to life, but also to what we do as athletes, right? We sign up for these races. We have these unknowns where we have these expectations and outcomes of what we think and what we want to happen. And doesn't matter. And obviously as coaches, we see this all the time is you see an athlete have a great training experience and a great, build up, grow within the process of training and getting healthier and getting fitter. And then, a swim gets canceled, or it's super hot and windy, or for whatever reason, they don't have the day that they want. Right. And sometimes honestly, the day they deserve. I mean, because this, like, there's nothing better than seeing an athlete get the race they deserve in the race that they earned. Right. They worked hard. They did the work that was required. They worked as hard as possible. So there's nothing better than to see them reach that potential and get, again, what they earned and what they deserved on race day. But sometimes it doesn't always happen, right? Some things bad things happen. You don't show up for the race. You don't understand why. You can't really explain it, but that just happens. And so, I think I think it's just a great topic, and experiencing things, and then again, like what we take from it, right? And going to races and having PRs or podiums or having the race you want, and how to not let that or allow, yourself to lose the growth and the experience and all the positives coming in and out of it, but also to get out there and put yourself out there more, right? And to do things that, again, everything is so easy these days. Everything is so easy and so comforting and so predictable. We can do everything from home, right? And there's just so much life out there to live and to do and to experience that you cannot purchase. But on the flip side, I think it's what scares us is that you also can't predict, right? You can't predict how things are going. Like, I couldn't predict if we were going to win. I couldn't predict if he would make it through the whole game or want to leave at halftime. I couldn't predict the fans we were going to sit next to. I couldn't predict, the flow of the game. I couldn't predict where all these things that, probably seem insignificant to a lot of people, like, were stressors to me. But even then, like, going through it, it was just like I think we just miss out on so many opportunities to, one, grow. But then when we have those experiences, how quickly we are willing to erase all of these because an outcome, again, an irrelevant outcome, right? Like a game, but also which is a relevant outcome in how you perform on that day, how we want to reinvent the wheel or change everything, right? Because one win or one loss, or not making a PR or not finishing that day or not having a bad day, instead of, having, the patience and the, just the patience and the steadiness, really, to not want to reinvent the wheel and change things abruptly or throw it all away because of, the minor outcome that could have changed on a dime.
Yeah, it's when I think about the difference between actually being on site at an Ironman or a race or whatever, I just always go back to um, Alabama beat Vanderbilt, and all these people had these videos of how crazy it was when they're carrying that goalpost down Broadway and throwing it in the river after the game, and it's about 3 miles, and all I could think about was, again, I'm always on this. It's ironic kind of because I kind of am a videographer by trade, growing up in my adult life, and I just think about how it isn't, most stuff on social media. I mean, if we're going to be real honest with it, there's a little bit of lie in a lot of it. You know what I mean? It's sort of like you always frame things up, or you kind of take that 8 pictures and put the best one up in the situation. And I've talked about it before, but I used to when I got to Nashville, I think it was back in the day, and I really didn't know anybody there, and I would go to a concert or something and make a picture of myself with the band in the background and say, what a great time this was. But the reality was I was just sort of like lonely and really wasn't into the scene, but I was trying to project. And I think we all kind of have that. You have to kind of keep an eye out for that. But anyway, when they're rolling down the road at Vanderbilt and everybody's like, this is chaos and there's cops everywhere and it's dangerous and all this shit. I've been in situations like it. When you're in them, or, when you're storming a field or something like that, people are, it looks so crazy and chaotic, but when you're actually in it, it doesn't feel that way. And I think there's a parallel there between people seeing people do Ironman or something and they're watching. I remember I used to feel like this before I did it. When I watched my first Ironman, I thought to myself, boy, this is insane. How do these people do it? They're, superhuman and all that kind of thing. And then the next year we did it, and it was just different, once you immerse yourself in it. And I think it's so easy to just kind of sit around and, if nobody's really, you're watching a game or you're by yourself, it's so easy to kind of not be yourself or whatever. Actually, I guess you would be more like yourself in a way, because you're at a game like you were. You could be, you're not going to say the same things that you would in the house or whatever. You're not going to get as angry or whatever the case may be watching something on TV. So I just find it interesting because it's always sort of that being where you're at is just so much more relaxing. And I think that's really the goal, right? Is just to be in the situation. You can't really, it's all my thing is about being in the moment and whatever. And I think for some reason, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, with television and screens in general, it's not really in the moment. It's sort of in a different kind of universe in a weird way. We kind of get affected by someone else's perspective. And I just, as sort of a person that really thinks about that sort of thing, it's just so unusual to kind of lay out, because the first thing you'll do is you'll like kind of scream at home, and then you'll just send out a post on social media. It's just screaming at the world or something like that. And it's just different, man. So, before we got on here, I was saying, I wrote down, this is the time to stay in the game. And I think when we think about it in those terms, to me, that means actually getting out and doing things that, you want to do regarding, triathlon or what's going to make you better and stay in the game, rather than, it's so easy to, at this time of year, just kind of sit back and watch videos and try and learn all this shit. And instead of going out and actually experimenting, trying your own stuff, because there's so many options out there and so many different opinions, including this podcast. You got to figure it out on your own sometimes, or often, and sort of living in this illusion world of listening to other people talk all the time, which I am certainly vulnerable to. I think it's important to actually go out and feel things and experience things on your own, like you just did. But with training and, go out and, this kind of thing can apply to, I don't know if I want to drive out and run those trails or whatever. I'll just do this again or whatever. And, it's a good time to expand your horizons and stay moving, stay in the game for next year, and not sort of acquiesce to the screen life.
I mean, I think it's so difficult, I think, to manage. And I don't even think there's any, and that's the problem, right, with things like this, where there aren't wrong or right answers. And also those answers might be different each day. So one day you might choose in one direction that feels right, but then going the other different direction on one day might be the wrong decision, could be the right decision the next day, right? Because I mean, let's be honest, like, the comfort and the accessibility that we have, comes with, a lot of really great things. Like it comes with a lot of positives, but with those positives also become like it comes like opportunity of how we change because of those options, and what we decide to no longer do, or to no longer experience, or no longer push ourselves to do. Right. And I think that's one of the hardest things, because again, like, there's a lot of things that the comfort of your home is a great thing, right? It's a luxury to have. I don't know if it's a great thing. It's a luxury to have, and it's nice when we need it, but it's not nice, right, or advantageous when we become dependent and reliant on it. And with training software and indoor training, and not going outside, or not riding your bike outside, or again choosing the flat route versus the hilly route, or I don't want it to affect my pace, or I'm not maybe sure I'm going to do this race. Like, there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think that's one of the hardest things as the athlete, right? Even if you're a coached athlete, is to make those decisions on a daily basis, in experiences, and then how valuable those experiences are as they move you forward in your journey. Because again, is there a time and a place to do that, and to put more effort into those, again, those stresses? 100%. Like, would I go back out this next week and do it again? Probably not. Not because I want to, because it's just a lot. The great experiences still come with the the opportunity to be, to burn a match, and to it takes time, right, to invest in it. The outcome might have been great, and it was, but it was still, an investment, time investment, financial investment, stress investment. So there's a time and a place for all these. But I think, again, like, when you don't, have if you don't even have it in as an option to do. I mean, even the guy sitting me next to the game said, he's like, yeah, we only come to these like once a year, because it's so much. Right. And I was like, I mean, I get it. And I get, yeah, one a year maybe. But, again, like, I think it's the focus that we have on avoiding it versus the intention in which we make sure that we're not avoiding it, but that we are giving and allowing ourselves the opportunities to put ourselves in a situation where the outcome and the experience can greatly outweigh anything that we were possibly scared of. But that the tricky part, right, is that we have to move through all those things and all those thoughts and all those feelings of the things that we really want to avoid, right, and convince ourselves that the right way to do is to avoid it and not do it. And then we never know, right? Because if we don't go, then what we're going to tell ourselves is, well, aren't you glad you didn't go? Right? Like, that's what I told myself if we hadn't gone. See, aren't you glad you didn't go? It wouldn't have been worth it. You lost. And because there was no other thought about all the things leading up to it that could have been great, that you can't replace, that you can't buy. But also the scary part is that you cannot predict. Right? Going to the trail races, like you said, or doing hard things, taking the hilly route, sticking out with races, sticking with the training program longer, than you intended. Like, we've comfort and, guarantees are never a good thing. Like, if you knew how your racing season would end up, would you train as hard? Would you be as dedicated? Would you focus as much? No, you probably wouldn't. Right? So you'd miss out on these opportunities to get better and to grow and to, explore. And again, I think guarantees and comfort are really hindering our ability to experiment, to have experiences, and then to express, our fitness, our goals, our even like our beliefs and our values, because, and then maybe even change like what we thought about certain aspects of our life, and then how that fits into sport, right? And what we want to do, because again, we want guarantees, and we want, and because guarantees are comfortable, right? There's no what ifs, there's no maybes. I know I can just have it. But there's so much to be found in the unknown, in the I'm not sure how it's going to go, but we'll just figure it out. Like so much to be said for that, but we've become so obsessed with the predictive nature of everything, the guaranteed this, the guaranteed that, and then the comfort that comes with it. But it's creating a level of staleness, that we're just being comforted with being fine.
Yeah, as you were talking there, I was just thinking about, we'll go do these races, right? And we'll get done, and we'll look back at our results, and we'll compare ourselves to the age group or whatever. And if we're 50% or 70 percentile in the finish of our age group, we're sitting there going, "Oh man, I'm below average." I'm not shit, but that's but nobody does this shit, right? So we're comparing ourselves against people that are crazy, really, in a good way, that are going out and actually doing stuff. But if you compare that against the world, again, we'll say it's like less than 1% of 1% or whatever like that. But I think it's easy to, kind of get down on ourselves maybe if we don't finish where we want to in the age group or in the race or our times or whatever like that. I think it's really important to sort of shift our perspective, man. It's like, what are we doing things that make us feel alive? And to me, that's really the bottom line of all this shit, is this like, we have to, do things that make us feel good, make us feel alive, that, that we can, that help engage us with life, instead of looking, and I think that's what I look at this stuff at most of the time when I get to a race or something like that. It's just kind of it's an awesome opportunity, really, to be able to just go out there with all those people around cheering for you, sort of reliving a little bit of your glory days in a sense, but there's volunteers and it's organized, and you have this really cool course that you can go out and experience and, do something really hard and just feel good about it. But, when you're beaten up after that race and you're kind of, thinking about it and you're like, damn, I didn't, do as good as I hope or whatever. And it's kind of, you gave it a shot, right? And it's a fight with me because it's so easy to do that and fall in that trap. But wow, the idea, I've gotten better at it. Even this year, I didn't have what I hoped to have, but I felt really good about just being able to do it. And that sort of takes a lot of pressure off, but it gives you momentum in the other direction of doing, things in regular life, and just being able to go out and lift shit and mow the lawn. And, when people my age are kind of, struggling to go downstairs or whatever like that, it's just it's something that I think that we could probably all be better at, is sharing that with each other, supporting and really encouraging people to keep going. And, yeah, you didn't have the greatest race. I mean, is that really what you're putting your value? Is that how you're going to assign value to yourself if you didn't have a good race or something like that? I think it's really easy to do that, especially when you put so much time in it or whatever. But it's sort of that danger of staking your worth on a race result, and I think it's just so easy to do. You asked if you would do it again. I just think that's a interesting question because, unlike, I think it's all a little bit relative too. I remember going to the Big Ten football championship, and I was there when Ohio State beat us with Cardell Jones, 58-0. I sat there and watched Wisconsin get beat 58-0. And boy, did that take it out of me, man. But then you realize, like, man, I wasn't even playing. It's kind of weird to get that invested in, imagine how the kids felt. And, I was also at the Final Four, lost to Duke, and that one hit hard. But it's just so weird, man, getting that kind of invested in teams to me, especially I think it's as I get older, I'm kind of going, wow, well, it's a young, kids thing to do, but it is really about perspective and shifting your perspective. It's like, okay, that was an experience. You know, they went out and gave it their all or whatever, and they didn't win. So what? But I don't really know if I have the concrete answer or solution on any of this stuff. I'm just talking about it right now. And I think it does apply to how we look at ourselves after some of these races. And, you know, it goes both ways. Just because you had a good race doesn't mean you're a superior person, but it's a good effort and it all came together. And you can't, you know, I guess the point is you just got to keep moving on. And like now, like I said, is the time to just stay in the game and keep doing it. And who knows what you'll learn or what'll come out of it if you just keep doing things. You know, it's just, I'm getting excited actually because it's getting colder and I haven't been doing a lot of plunging. And people, you know, there's these things about how is plunging good for you? Is sauna good for you? Is this good for you? Is that good? You know, everybody has an opinion, you know. And all I know is that when I'm doing that kind of thing and I'm jumping in a lake when it's like 35 or 38 degrees or whatever, and it just makes me feel alive, you know. And how can I let someone else's perspective of that impact me? You know, it's just something that really hits me at the core, and it really does sort of bring life into everything. And it's just, I think that's kind of what life is every day we need to find things that kind of give us that vigor and, you know, I guess optimism about being here and just doing what's in front of us and trying hard things or trying new things, you know, finding out what works and just kind of layer those things on top of each other.
Well, I think that's the key, right? Is to figure out to what extent it works and how often and when. And again, like you said, like, you know, neither one of us have again, like when we get like, you know, questions in the Q&A and I get, you know, ribbed a lot for saying, well, it depends or maybe. I'm like, because it does. Like it's a perfect example. Like we try very hard and we fail sometimes for sure to not give blanket black and whites. This is exactly how it's supposed to be done. This is exactly when you should do it. Everybody wants that. You know why? Because you don't have to think. You can just do it. And if it doesn't work, you can blame somebody else or say, this is what I was told. Well, just think about it. And yeah, we don't have a perfect answer for this. It's a discussion to hopefully, you know, open your eyes and allow you and challenge you to think about what you've been avoiding, what you've failed to, you know, what you've taken the opportunity or not taken the opportunity to do. And instead of thinking about, you know, the opportunities, the events, the games, the, you know, things that go on in your life that you see and that you convince yourself it was the right choice to not have, and maybe then think about, you know, what did I actually miss out on? You know, and we get this all the time. You know, we get it on a daily basis on a 45-minute run. I really wasn't expecting this to go. I mean, this morning, you know, an athlete, I had a super stressful day, and I didn't really want to do this swim. And I went up for a hike, and then I got back, and then I did it, and I just felt it actually went really, really well, and I'm so glad that I did it. Versus you go out and you're super stressed, you convince yourself that I shouldn't swim today because I am stressed, I'm not feeling it, and then when you go to bed, you're like, I made the right call, I was too stressed. And here's the problem. They're kind of both the right answer. Right? You know, like you can't know that actually choosing to go swim or do a workout is the right choice until it's done. Right? And I think that's the tricky part, right? Let me get that question. Like, you know, can you just, you know, sometimes you say to dig deep, sometimes you say to listen to your body, you know, those are all yeses. Like there's a perfect time and a place for everything, but I think the point here is to allow for like you to have the opportunity to have that in your triage of things to think through, and to always ask yourself, what's really behind my decision? Right? You know, and then ask yourself, is it true? Is it valid? Am I running from something? Am I running to something? Am I avoiding something? Am I trying not to do something? Is this my ego talking? Is this my head? Like, those are all questions that no one really wants to ask anymore. You just want to be told what to do and do it blindly. and then to move on. And I get it, because, the more thinking you have to do, the harder it is. I mean, you and I see this again on a daily basis. You have an athlete that wants to, that doesn't feel like they should do a 15-minute run towards the end of the day. And they know good and well that they shouldn't do it. But they also don't want to think through or trust their thought process to get to the point to where they really feel like it's the right choice. So they just text their coach. Hey, coach, what do you think about this? Well, I think you should probably skip it. Oh, thank you for that. They don't want to think that through that. And sometimes you just don't have the brain power, right? Because you're being pulled so many different directions. But, when you do have the opportunity, and again, you shouldn't feel like it has to be a guaranteed loss or a win. Sometimes it's the experience that gets you to a win or a loss that then provides you better information on how to make a better decision the next time. But when you totally avoid all decisions, you don't gain anything, right? You don't gain any knowledge. You don't gain any experience. You don't have these opportunities. So I think it's just really, really important to put yourself in these positions and to do things that are stressful. But again, that's the problem, right? Is that there is no perfect answer, right? This isn't a top 5 checklist or ways to make every right decision all the time. This is just a great roundabout information, or experience that I just had, that we've all had at some point, like you shared about the game, about your game. But even here's the thing, right? Is that sometimes even bad memories, right, are still memories. Like you sit through a game, you watch your team get blown out, or you travel to Arkansas and you see them, lose in the last 20 seconds. Even then, like, a bad outcome doesn't necessarily mean a bad memory, right? And I think we confuse those things a lot. Or a bad outcome doesn't even mean a bad experience, right? Like we go back all the time to the last year of Ironman Louisville and how terrible the weather was, and that people knew it would be a hard day. And they finished, a few had PRs, but everybody was just, they were more proud of just finishing. And there was no guarantee of a podium or a PR or even a finish. They were just proud to have finished. And it wasn't a fun experience, right, for a lot of people, right? And so, like, when you think through the pros and cons and the positives and the negatives and what can be gained or lost, and I think that's oftentimes the only thing that we think about is what can be lost, by doing this. Time, money, we might lose, I might not PR. I might not, stack up for my, where I want to for my age group. I might not, look as good on Strava. I might not, people might, and like, but what is there to gain? And then go through the list of what it looks like, what it feels like to gain a win, and what winning looks like. And then it's not always about what's on paper or what's in Training Peaks or what's on Strava or what's on social media. It's like all these things that layer in. And I think we all have these, right? We have these experiences, these memories that we can't really even define as a win or a loss, but they're just, they're learning experiences or things that we learn from. And sometimes those are hard to put in a bucket, right? Is it a win bucket? Is it a loss bucket? Is it a pain bucket? Is it a euphoria bucket? Sometimes it's just like, I'm putting that shit in a miscellaneous bucket. I don't even know what that felt like. I don't know really how it went, but it's a memory. And I'm probably at some point going to revert back to it and see how, and learn from it and build from it. And I think that's just an important thing that, again, we avoid all too often.
Yeah. It's, when I think about, I think a lot of us, we're all flawed and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, I think. And, I can sit here and go, and I do this, and I think a lot of people may do it. It's, I'm like, okay, if I can ever just, kind of get my shit together, have a really good race, get on that podium, then everything's going to be just great. And that's just not true. It's like, it's just getting so far ahead and, kind of projecting a future you that is going to be happy. It just really comes down to what's in front of us and what, being okay with what is right now and finding, like you said, experience in the moments and, trying new shit and really being okay with that, because every day is not going to be great. You're going to have some, how many times have I gone out and I'm like, I can't run. I don't know. I'm not, and then it turns out to be a great run and vice versa. You just never know until you put yourself in the game. You got to give it a shot, there's just so many situations like that, and we're all just kind of going through, and I just think we get, what was I call it? It was premature optimization. I always like that. It's like wow, you plan this all out. This is going to go perfect. And then, if it doesn't, then we're like, okay, what now? But it's almost like forgetting where we're at and putting ourselves out in the future. And, we're having out of body experiences all the time with somebody that's not even there or something that hasn't even happened. And we're stressing about it or whatever. But all we can do is, what we can do and be okay with that. And I think that's good. I think if it's so easy to project out, these goals and these targets and everything and be obsessed with that. But the reality is we got to be doing what we're doing. And it's a lot easier, I think, if you can be okay with that too, because, you can live your whole life. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or something, but I've seen all these people, that just like live their life for something else. And then it kind of comes and it's like, that's not what because things change along the way too, to make that what you expect and hope for now, what may seem totally different even when you get it. And, I've seen a lot of people kind of, it's sort of that thing when you ask old people what they regretted about living life, and it's never, I had too many experiences or whatever, It's always, I wish I would have done this, or I tried this or done that. And I really think that shit's important, because we can just kind of think ourselves into, numbness and no action whatsoever. So again, now is the time to stay in the game.
I love that. I think when it comes to, even races and events, I think, you generally have two people, right? The ones that always pick the hardest ones possible and the ones that always pick the easiest ones possible. There's a time and place for both. And, when you look back at your season and look, forward, easy is not the path to growth. We talked about that a little bit last week, earlier last week, talking about pain and discomfort and what it pulls out of you, and how we've, I think, lowered the barrier of what's pain, right? Because of how comforting life has become. It's so easy. It's pathetic, and it's made making tough choices, I think, even harder. And that's, again, and going back to the point of the podcast, it doesn't give you like, a black and white, this is right, this is wrong, but it's to challenge you to think like, am I too comfortable? I was telling you that the other day, I was talking to a guy last week and said that the United States is in a comfort crisis. And I love that. I love that phrase, because it's so true. If it's not right in front of us, or we can't get it by pulling our phone out of our pocket, it's like, how are we ever going to manage? And I think where we get confused, right, is we have like this association with comfort as in getting things done and making life more easy, right, and making life more doable. But what happens is when we don't have those things, and those creature comforts are stripped away, and other parts of life that you can't control, that aren't guaranteed, that you can't predict, come crashing in on you, then those comforts are actually just one big fat enabler. Because you don't know how to multitask, you don't know how to troubleshoot, you don't know how to be resilient, you don't know how to overcome obstacles, you don't know how to think outside the box, you don't know how to navigate real life twists and turns where you're just flying blind. So at one point, is great, right? When when life is cruising along, it can provide a total different level of comfort and ease and lowering stress. 100%. Admit that fully, right? But when those options and opportunities become obsolete because of something else going on in your life, then those are actually they're just enabling you to not find a path to become more resilient. Because listen, the longer you stay in the zone of the comfort zone, the less likely you are to challenge yourself. Because it's not comfortable. I don't know that it's not going to be here tomorrow at 12 o'clock. It's guaranteed to be here tomorrow. I'll do it. If I got to wait a week, I'm not having it. And I think there's just a lot of greatness in uncertainty. And I know that doesn't make sense, I think, to a lot of people, because we like uncertainty. I mean, so do I. I mean, I'm the guy that says varieties for the week. But you have to be able to navigate that, because we're not in charge either. And I think that's also a premise that we're all very, a delusion we've all kind of come to accept, is that we're in charge and we can predict and we can guarantee and we can control all things. And the fact is that's just so far from the truth. And then when those things do happen, we don't know how to navigate. And that all comes with experiencing things where the outcome is unknown, the experience is unknown, the pain is unknown, the happiness is unknown. There's a lot of unknowns, but you're going to try anyway. And then when it's over, you take the good, take the bad, you learn from it and move on and try to make a better decision next time. But there's no rule book for a lot of things in life, and there's not one for this one either.
A lot of times I think about, and again, I'm vulnerable to all this stuff, so I like thinking about it and trying to figure it out, because a lot of people will if you got a vacation at the end of the year, it's like, man, I can't wait for that. And you're thinking about that vacation like all year or whatever. It's the race maybe. And, the whole year just kind of goes by without even being attended to in your mind, because it's something out in the future that's sort of driving you. And, or like, remember my thing used to be, I had a bike, and I probably, at some point deserved in some ways a new bike, but I kept telling myself I'm not going to get a new bike until I prove myself that I'm capable of consistently riding this one, because it's sort of like, once I get a new bike, everything's going to be all right. And I'm going to be, then shit's going to be different, but you still got to ride it. Right. And I think that at the core for me is, whether it's, new, it's like all the new shit, I want to get something new. I want to try, new. And, but the reality is that might, it's going to be old after you get it, so you have to deal with that same thing. If I had a better pool or whatever the hell it is, just go swim. It's really interesting to me, because I do that too. It's sort of like, oh man, change of environment, this whole thing. And then you change it, and then it's sort of the same still after a while, because everything new gets old or whatever. But you just have to really embrace what's in front of you and just, do it. It doesn't matter. Then when you get the new bike, if you're riding it, it's like, yeah, I love this. It's better for me or whatever. Anyway.
And that's our top 10 ways to experience more things more often. It's like, but no, I mean, I love doing casts like this, and we can wrap it up just because it's, you and I talk through it because we're talking to ourselves here, right? I think,
right.
I think sometimes people forget that is that we're talking to ourselves and talking through our own thought process, with this, and challenging ourselves to do things, better and to challenge ourselves more. And you just get to listen to it. And then also listen to it and take what it is and apply it to your own life in the way that you want to. And you also have the choice to be as honest with yourself about it or as dishonest with yourself as you want. Right. And that's what, a lot of our, not a lot, but whenever we do get hate mail, a lot of times it's blatantly obvious that the person doesn't hate what we said. They're just offended because we called them out. They just don't want to admit it. And we're fine with that too, because we call ourselves out all the time too. And so again, it's a great discussion, a great topic, and I think we run the risk of, the risk that we're so afraid of, or we should be afraid of, is the risk of missing out on too many opportunities where we don't know the outcome, and what there is to not gain by choosing not to, or to avoid things. And so next time you do something that, sign up for something that you think is stressful. Sign up to do something, commit to do something that's not in your wheelhouse of comfort. It's how you grow. It's how you do things. And here's the thing: is you don't even have to like it, right? It can just challenge you, and you might not like it. It might not be a good experience. You might know that you don't want to do it ever again, but that also means now and you don't have to worry about, what if I might like this? But the thing is, in 2 years you might actually like it. And so, it's just, again, it's our effort, this podcast, like many others, it's our effort to continuously, push you in a direction to the unknown, right? Performance, your mental capacity, your ability to be resilient, your durability, is to not feel like everything or need to know everything, but you do know you need to explore everything. And then that's when, at least you find the opportunity to get through, who knows what. I mean, that's the fun part, right? Endurance sports and our bodies and our minds are endless opportunities to get better, be smarter, go faster, be stronger. Because, only about 1% of people ever will reach their full mental, emotional, and physical capacity. Think about that for a second. It's probably even 1%. It's probably less than that. People will use their entire brain, maximize their mental capacity and all the intellect that they have, and also maximize every bit of their health and athletic ability in their body. Probably way less than 1%, probably less than like 1% of 1%. Think about how sad that is. That we have this in us every day. We wake up with it. It's been given to us. We just have to work to find it. And I love the fact that, and you and I agree and talk about this all the time, is that, that's why I still believe that my best days are still ahead of me, because I have no idea what my peak is. Somebody asked me that the other day. I was like, yeah, I've already peaked. I was like, maybe you have. I'm not even done yet. Or actually, you know what? I'm going to re-peak. I'm peaking again. I'm peaked again. I hit a little valley. Now I'm peaking again. Because you've no idea. But when you believe you've already peaked, when you believe you're done, you're done. You're finished. You're done. If you think something is stressful, then the avoidance of distress confirms that it was stressful. But the reality is you never experienced it. So get out there, experience things, challenge yourself, do things that make you feel uncomfortable, and do things that aren't guaranteed. No guaranteed win, no guaranteed loss, no guaranteed PR. Sometimes you just got to do things to do things.
Yeah. We're a Dopamine Nation, and sometimes you just got to be okay with walking barefoot in the grass.
I like it. Walking barefoot in the grass. Get off your ass, go walk barefoot in the grass. I can make that a t-shirt.
Yeah. 20-minute run, whatever. Doesn't have to always jack you up. That's
exactly right.
We get in that trap, I think.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys listening to us ramble today. As always, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop of all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything, you know where to find Mike. He's available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. Or if you need anything from me specifically, I'm at Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man. I'll see you for some Q&A on Thursday.
All right, dude. See you then.
Yep.